You can say Naik Muhammad was the first casualty on enemy side, a prominent one. And after that there were some others like Hassan Mehsud and few more foreigners. Pakistan army was able to root out the terror epicenter, and most of them shifted their bases back in Afghanistan and started operating from there. Abdullah Mehsud was killed in 2007 in Zhob. This is the time when foreigner guests and many of their hosts were having a bad time, both in Afghanistan and Pakistan. Pakshia, Logar, Helmand were controlled by Taliban, Afghan Taliban. But in general, the whole Afghanistan was under American occupation and Hamid Karzai's government. They had no control whatsoever outside their bases and presidential palaces. However, they were still the main authority in the country, conducting pinpoint drone attacks, air raids, and special services operations. It was not easy for both Taliban and other militants to claim victory until 2022, like almost 15 years after Abdullah Mehsud's death. It was not a walkthrough for Taliban. Remember this. It is Americans who decided to leave. And when they decided to leave, they informed Taliban that they are withdrawing and they pulled their forces back. And this is when the Taliban, they came into city centers, different city centers, and then started taking over and marching finally towards Kabul. It is only in 2022, which marks almost 21 years of American occupation. Americans were challenged from day one. But none of the bases of American were taken over by Taliban in these 21 years. And when Americans finally decided after 21 years that this occupation is of no use, they told the Taliban that they are leaving, and this is when the Taliban swept over. If Northern Alliance, which was having an army of around 250 to 300,000 soldiers, would put up a fight and not surrender immediately, this transition would have gone for longer. You can see what happened in Panjshir Valley. It was not a walkthrough even. It took a lot of time on Taliban to go there and capture the city, and not to mention with the help of some friends. Taliban know the best who these friends were. I think you would like to know what happened to the Uzbek, Somalis, Abu Sayyaf and Turkestani militants after Naik Muhammad's death. Well, one thing is clear, the new management of Wazir Taliban, they were not interested in supporting these Uzbek and Turkestani militants. And this is when Hassan Mehsud was shot down. So the headless Turkestani militants merged with the Uzbek under Tohir Yoldesh, and they made a new alliance with Jandullah. Jandullah is the organization which provided them routes into Balochistan, Iran and Afghanistan. However, Afghan Taliban at that time were not supporting these groups either, but they were pushing them out from Afghanistan, and we were taking them down when they tried to enter Pakistan. With the Taliban division here with the Wazir group and the Mehsud group led by Baitullah Mehsud, things have opened up more than expected. The domain from South Waziristan was now widened to South Waziristan, North Waziristan and Kuram Agency. These orphaned militants had a new sponsor now, Indian Raw Agency, which was recruiting them against Pakistan, funding them, training them, and Tohir Yoldesh has turned very bitter against Pakistan due to his new master's command. NDS was also supporting them and funding them from their side. He had a group of 300 to 400 militants, majorly Uzbek, Turkestanis, and of course some of Naik Muhammad men. And they were attacking our post in Pewar. Tohir was based in a small town named Dewani near Jalalabad in Afghanistan and was conducting hit and run operation on us. This is around 2008 end. It is the same time we had the first emergence of TTP, Tehreek Taliban Pakistan, in South North Waziristan, with Baitullah Mehsud combining fighters of Mehsud tribe, those who were against Maulvi Nazir's decision to sign peace with Pakistan Army, and claimed the leadership of Group TTP. Baitullah Mehsud also went bitter with Maulvi Nazir on Tahir, although Tahir was operating individually with having a lot of Raw advisors with him. As Indian Raw and NDS were working closely with Tahir, we also made a plan with Gulyar Khan, an Afghan local commander in Diwani, who was facing trouble from Tahir forces along with Kabul and Americans. We asked Gul to attack Tahir in Diwani and root them out. When they come to Paver, we will take them down. Although Tahir was using this route many times and attacking our Ali Mangal post frequently at this time of the year. When Gul attacked them, we were waiting for them on our side. They never showed up. We even had a unit waiting at Parachinar, but even there the Uzbek militants never showed up. It came to our notice that Tahir was also tipped off by Raw. They knew very well that we will be waiting for them and they changed their plan. But where did they go? No one knew. Neither Gul Khan nor us. We thought that they are in the Afghanistan side and Gulyar Khan thought that they are in Waziristan, probably North Waziristan. We conducted search operations for the next 3 to 4 months. North Waziristan, Kuram Agency, South Waziristan, but we could not get any clue of them. Where did they vanish? The only thing we could do was to remain vigilant and be patient. Patience pays off. It was after few months we came to know that some Uzbek militants were seen in Toba Kakad caves. Can you imagine? In Toba Kakad caves in Zhob Balochistan. For months we have been finding them in Fatah and Gulyar Khan was finding them in Afghanistan and they were hiding in Zhob Balochistan. This is when we came to know about the Jandullah connection. We were surprised. How could they move into Zhob undetected? Probably they went into Zhob from the other side of the mountain range from Afghanistan, or maybe they crossed the north-south Waziristan to reach there. There is a possibility. Well, what matters is that we got our man. We gathered information and found out Tahir is having around 400 bodyguards at all times, and to get him we need to pass through these die-hard 400 men. I must commend the Uzbeks really. Unlike Indians, Uzbeks were determined, trained fighters, and their loyalty towards Tahir was unmatched. However, we were also ready to conduct this operation as Tahir had been acting as a raw pawn for long now. We were 18 trained assassin commandos. We had to go in, attack the group and kill Tahir. This was our mission. Many of our covert operations, when you hear that militants were killed in safe havens, remember none of that militant moved or moves alone. They are always with 400 to 500 men. This is the minimum which they carry. So it is not one terrorist was roaming in the street in Afghanistan somewhere and someone came and killed him. It doesn't happen like this. You need to fight hundreds of men, take the high value target out. Same was the case here. We were 18 men. We made our plan and we were ready to strike Tahir and his men. The battle was good. It lasted almost 4 hours. I myself got 2 bullets in this operation. And I remember pulling Tahir's shoulder off from the bone in the hand-to-hand combat with him. It was really a good fight. Uzbeks tried their level best to save Tahir, but Alhamdulillah the battle ended with Tahir laying dead in front of us with more than 70 of his militants. The rest of the militants retreated in caves. Our objective was achieved and the militants were on the run, so we called FC Frontier Corps to come in and make the sweeping operation on them. Most of the militants got killed by FC. Few lucky ones crossed into Afghanistan, but Gulyar Khan being there on the other side, it would have been hard for them to survive there also. We took the bodies away and asked if anyone want to claim the body of Tahir or any other, but no one showed up. So we buried him with proper rituals. This marked the end of Uzbek militancy in Fatah area. Moving to Maulvi Nazir. After Naik Muhammad's death, Maulvi Nazir took over the group of Ahmadzai Wazirs and signed a peace treaty with Pakistan Army. This was the time he was also referred as the good Taliban. Nazir had fought alongside Afghan Taliban. He had very good links with them, also very close to Haqqani network, Hafiz Gul Bahadur faction in North Waziristan, who also was a wazir. Maulvi Nazir was having a life of a kind of a superstar of the militants. I remember Maulvi Nazir was injured and captured in the first surge of Taliban led by Naik Muhammad. But when we signed Shikai agreement, he was freed. The Mehsud faction after Abdullah Mehsud was in search of a leader and they wanted to attack Pakistan Army, which Nazir did not want to. So Mehsud faction raised Baitullah Mehsud as their leader, with Hafiz Gul Bahadur Wazir joining hands with Baitullah Mehsud. Wazir tribe is spread over into South Waziristan and also North Waziristan. Remember this, that Hafiz Gul Bahadur was from North Waziristan and not Wana. As of tribe he was under Wazirs, but operation wise he was working with Baitullah Mehsud very closely. This is around 2009 and a time of intense infighting among both TTP and Maulvi Nazir faction. Many times Maulvi Nazir was targeted, many times he targeted Baitullah Mehsud. As Nazir was closely connected with Afghan Taliban and Haqqanis, he kept on supporting them by sending in fighters. Pakistan government kept on telling him not to do so, but he never paid attention. Nazir's network was now stretching from Wana into Pakshia, Zabul, Helmand and Kandahar. Nazir also continued giving refuge to Al-Qaeda leaders, not the Uzbek but the Arabs, whom he was previously in touch, including Ilyas Kashmiri, Abu Khubayb al-Misri, Usama al-Kinni, Ahmad Salim Suwaid, Abu Zaid al-Iraqi. These were all big respected names of Al-Qaeda. All were paying Maulvi Nazir for his protection. Many times Pakistan Army thought of reviewing their relation with Maulvi Nazir due to these two things. One, he was sending militants into Afghanistan. Secondly, he was protecting the Al-Qaeda. Things were getting strained with him. The good Taliban was not a good Taliban for us but for himself. He knew very well that without support of Pakistan Army and the Lashkar support, he will not survive a day from Baitullah's men. It is true that Maulvi Nazir was instrumental in rooting out the Uzbeks from Wana. There had been a serious dispute between Tahir and Nazir on protection money. So Nazir kicked them out and they settled in Afghanistan, as I told you. This was also a reason of Baitullah Mehsud creating his own group, as he favored Tahir and Tahir favored him to attack Pakistan forces. So this incident added to the tribal rivalry for resources, and the infighting caused hundreds of people to die and thousands displaced from both sides. As Nazir was supporting Afghan Taliban against the American and Hamid Karzai coalition in Kabul, he was subject to American attacks. We told Maulvi Nazir not to behave like this and don't send fighters, Pashtun or Punjabi Taliban. But he did not listen and kept doing that. Wazir faction in North Waziristan under Hafiz Gul Bahadur remained ideological and tribe-wise under Maulvi Nazir, but he kept informing Baitullah Mehsud about Maulvi Nazir's whereabouts from his sources in South Waziristan. Baitullah Mehsud attempted at least 5 times on Nazir. Suicide bombings, IEDs, ambush. Nazir was saved every time by a miracle. Maulvi Nazir knew that if he goes against Pakistan Army, his rivals are gonna take him down in a day. He would not be able to survive. That is why he kept on siding with us, listening to us sometimes listening to the Taliban. He was on a confused track for next 6 to 7 months. This was a battle of self-interest for all parties. Whether Americans, Maulvi Nazir faction, Afghan Taliban, Hafiz Gul Bahadur in North Waziristan, Baitullah Mehsud or Tohir Yoldesh. Well, we also had to safeguard Pakistan interests. One fine day, the Americans took down Nazir in a drone strike. Well, you might think it wasn't in our favor, as Nazir was balancing Baitullah Mehsud faction. Well, honestly speaking, this was not the case. There was no good Taliban in FATA. They were more or less all the same. Smugglers, blackmailers, extortionists, thugs, assassins, militants. Wallahi, good for nothing. Not good for Pakistan, not even good for their own people, not even good for their tribes. Maulvi Nazir grabbed power and influence from tribal elders and maliks by assassinating them. Same way Naik Muhammad did, or Baitullah Mehsud. When it comes to harboring foreigners, Maulvi Nazir did the same like others. After Nazir's death, Bahlol Khan became Wazir faction chief. But the power shift definitely went towards northern parts of southern Waziristan, and Baitullah Mehsud emerged as the undisputed TTP leader, with having around 10,000 militants spread across South Waziristan, North Waziristan, and Kuram Agency. Hafiz Gul Bahadur Wazir officially merged into TTP. 2008 and 2009 will be the bloodiest years for Pakistan, with Baitullah Mehsud launching war on Pakistani civilians with strings of suicide bombings and on our forces with IEDs attacks. This was the first time I heard about Hikmat Mehsud, Baitullah Mehsud's main man, improvised explosive devices responsible for martyring thousands of our soldiers.